to Scotland versus England. It finished 6-13, and boy, were we served up a platter of gourmet rugby to watch in this game. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for predictions and opinion. Joining me is John, as you can see here, and also Mr. Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir? We've got small screens.
I'm very good, thank you, Paul. Once again, a privilege and a pleasure to be on the TV. Unlike Murrayfield, it's a beautiful sunny morning here in Auckland. So from wherever you are around the world, good morning or good evening.
Good. Yeah, well, yes, it is. It is that I'm just trying to change the layout. But anyway, doesn't matter. One of the things too, it kicked off, and look, it was blustery. It was raining. It was wet. Those were horrible conditions, weren't they?
You know, it beggars belief when rugby could be played in summer in the Northern Hemisphere with long summer evenings where the sun goes down in Scotland at like 11 p.m. And then you see this played at night in these kind of conditions with that kind of driving rain, when you see the medal, the poor guy's man of the match medal almost being blown off his, sort of blown off his chest in the wind. I mean, that's just not an advert for the game. It really isn't. But hey, look, the game was played, and the atmosphere was good, which it always is in these Six Nations games. And the highlight was half time. So yeah, a game of rugby was played.
A game of rugby was played. Yes, that's true. I don't know. The first half, England were playing into the wind, and I don't think it took a while to figure out actually how strong that wind was. I mean, Owen Farrell, I don't think he's ever missed. What did he miss? Like four. I think he missed three kicks today. We had Ford missing a drop goal as well. You just don't see these guys missing that many kicks normally, do you, Stephen?
No, not at all. In fact, in that first half, I actually thought England played much better into the wind than they did with the wind in the second half.
So did Scotland.
I actually thought they played really, really well. Their kicks were on point, especially from the base of the scrum. Willie Hines, and then I'm not too sure what happened at the halftime team talk, but it all seemed to turn around in the second half.
Yeah, and but then again, even in that beginning of the second half, England, Willie Hines kicks out 2 or 3 times on the full. We had Elliot Daly kicking out in the full. We had Ford kicking out in the full. I was pulling my hair out at the beginning of that sort of third 20 minutes after half time. We're going, like, guys, just kick it down the middle of the park. It's wet. People are fumbling. People are making a mess. They're not going to run it back 80 meters. Right? The longest run was probably Hogg's one, which he did about 20 meters or so, and then he kicked it verbal on the floor. This was never a game you're going to get run back all the way. So just pump it down the middle of the park and just make them run it back. And it was just, there was some dumb rugby here amongst all this as well. Too many players have played so much in set conditions. Even Scotland as well, where it's like, okay, my ruck is on the 15 dash line. I don't like it here. I like it to be just inside of the 5-meter dash line, and that's where I box kick from. And he kicks out on the full. So he moved the ruck. He made them do an extra phase to get in the right place to box kick in normal conditions. And the players just fail to adapt to these conditions, and that's an indictment on the players, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it amazes me in modern rugby, as opposed to when we were playing as youngsters, how often it happens that the team playing into the wind performs better, exactly as Steve said, and how it seems modern teams don't seem to have the skill set to take full advantage of playing with the wind. And it also seems that when they're playing against the wind, they seem to commit more fully to the ball in hand and consequently do better. So yeah, it's it's a very interesting playing against the wind can be the better performing team or look better in each half. And just simply what happened is that there was a bit of, the difference between the teams is that there was a little bit of hesitation from Hogg's part, and he nearly had the ignominy of being the first player in Six Nations history in consecutive weeks to drop the ball over the opposition line and his own line. And and there was one opportunity and England drove it over. And albeit to some poor defense, they shouldn't have been able to drive over that easily. They should have been stopped. I mean, it wasn't a tremendously, wasn't a drive off a long run. It's something that should have been dealt with. But be that as it may, England got close 5 meters from the line and made the telling score.
Yeah, and as soon as it was 2 scores, even though Scotland came back and scored a penalty straight away, it was over. That try, it was. This wasn't a game where you needed to be 20 points ahead. You just needed to get 2 scores ahead, and it was you were done. Let's talk about some positives though, Stephen.
Positives?
Positive. No. Even you said during the game, the form of Curry, Underhill, Ludlam, those loose forwards had a massive game today.
Curry and Underhill were amazing.
Really caused Scotland a lot of problems, didn't they?
Very much so, guys. Listen, there were a couple of little highlights I want to pinpoint. And of course, you mentioned Hogg before. He could have been the highlight and the low light, because I thought that run was just his footwork was just absolutely sensational.
Amazing.
And also Sutherland, the loose head prop for Scotland. I thought that was a great bit of pace up the middle from a loose head prop. But those highlights were, to be honest, few and far between.
I'm sorry, I've just seen the post. I'm not laughing at you. Were really great comments there, Steve. So I'm sorry.
So for those of you listening to the podcast, Dark Place 23 has sent us a message during the live chat. Christ, that was grim. I haven't felt that bad since my first marriage. Let's just forget that game even happened.
Like his first marriage, you're trying to forget.
Well, I am trying to put a bit of a positive spin on it. Listen, we'll go back to that positive energy, that psychic energy that Murray Beckstead used to talk about. Listen, I know you mentioned the back row, but I also thought Mario Itoje had a huge game. Took all his line-out ball, and he made some big offensive tackles as well. And I thought his work rate was really high. And he's a player just impresses me. He just knows how to, sort of that player that knows how to roll his sleeves up and go to those dark places. I thought he was very, very good.
Yeah, and look, whilst Scotland played one-out rugby quite rightly because of the conditions, and so didn't actually ask that many questions of England. England tackling 91%, Scotland tackling 95%. The defences didn't give the attack much opportunities either, as well. I mean, it's not. I mean, we've been watching some of the rugby, some of in some of the Super Rugby games where one of the teams is tackling at 70%, and you're like, wow, yeah, okay, that's why you're getting front.
It was 78 was the figure.
Okay, well, 78%.
78%.
Okay. But even so, we're still talking 15 or so % less.
In a half, they raised the figure in the second half.
But that's why you're getting front foot ball, right? Yeah. And why you get over the game line, and why you can then get the next attack flowing.
But also let's be honest here, is that most of the players in the last 2 matches that we've watched haven't run at space. And I know these were bad conditions, but too many times they are lowering in these games. They're just simply lowering the shoulder and going in and running at the tackler. Whereas we're seeing in the Super Rugby games where they're shifting and they're hitting a shoulder. They're not hitting a shoulder. At least they're hitting an arm. At least they're changing the point of impact.
Even the Wales and the Ireland one, we got below 80. Well, we got into the 80s. I'm saying in this game though, rather as a whole, both defences stood up, made their tackles, which made it difficult to get front football, which made it difficult to get any continuity as well.
But I mean, one of the things here that's an issue is that and Hogg showed it with his footwork, and there was missed tackles there, whatever. Is that one of the problems that Scotland have is that Hogg is not involved enough in the game, so he needs to have the ball in his hands. because he makes people miss and he creates space for others. So whether it's the fact that England are really good at choosing where to place the ball so that he doesn't have normally time and space to affect the game, but something must be done to bring Hogg more into the game in their plan, because really he is probably the most gifted rugby player on both sides on that field, right? I mean, you could make a case for Underhill and Curry and Itoje, but when it comes to sheer ability to turn the game, there's nobody on either side that has his ability. And to have him just have so little time with the ball in his hands, something needs to be done with their game plan.
It does.
Paul, I agree with you. You know, they've got a really good centre in Hugh Jones as well, big, direct. And I think if the likes of Stuart Hogg can run off that guy or stay close to him, get him involved a hell of a lot more, even if it's off first or second phase, or even use, dare I say it, the All Black thing where they used 2 pivots last year. You know, I think they've got to get better value out of them.
They've got to. I mean, if they have some kind of ruck somewhere in the middle of the field, they should at least have him, have the two. Where's the camera? Have two playmakers on either side, right, running in the two directions. Do the Mackenzie All Black thing, or the Springboks using Villiers Leroux last year, where you have 2 playmakers coming up. But there needs to be some way of getting him more involved in the game, or change positions, get him to play a different position. But yeah, something needs to be done to get him more involved in the ball.
Yeah.
Has captaincy affected Hogg's game? I don't know. We're only 2 games in. It's hard to tell. And today's conditions, it's hard. It's very, very, very hard to tell. So we'll have to see over a few more games. The other player obviously missing from Scotland in this game was Finn Russell. Obviously, who's fallen out with the coaching staff. Now, in some ways, actually, I think Scotland are lucky he wasn't playing today. He's a magic player who can do magic things and turn a game. But in these conditions, where he would have tried stuff probably at the wrong time, and because it's a slippy ball, it would have messed up. I think actually,
maybe Finn Russell is lucky he wasn't playing.
Yeah,
today.
I think Finn Russell was lucky he wasn't playing today. This really was not a game for him. So also, I think they need Finn Russell back. But yeah, I don't think today he would have made the difference in that one, because it was, those conditions weren't fun. As Mary has said, she watched from behind a cushion on that one, because I'm not surprised. And going back to the thing that really let England off the hook on this game was the fact that Scotland lost 8 lineouts.
Yeah. And they were throwing the ball in deep.
Yeah.
In this wind, even when they had the wind, and the worst thing to do when you're playing in the wind, and it's a problem with lineouts, is to throw it deep when you've got the ball against you, when you've got the wind against you, because then you will be blown up for throwing it in skew, because the wind takes it to your side, and they were still throwing it in deep, so really, it should have been shortened lineouts, quick lineout ball, whatever, but just secure your ball, and then I was amazed.
Paul, in the final wash, what Scotland will look at is 8 or 9 handling errors in the first half, and of course those lost lineouts. Not to mention, I don't know, in that last 15 minutes they just seemed to drop everything that was thrown their way in terms of high kicks. So if you put it all together in the mix, that's probably over 20 odd mistakes. I don't think England were anywhere near their best today, but they probably, at the end of the day, the team that won just made the less mistakes. Just a quick thing on attack as well. It's a bit of an irony that the try eventually came off a really nice little place kick in behind the backs, regardless of the hot mistake. And really what I wanted from these sides under those conditions, I don't think, as opposed to the high kick, which just drifted over the sideline, would have liked to have seen a little couple more pop kicks over the top and behind the defence. We all know what the slippery ball on the ground is like.
Well, Steve, you raise a really good point here, is how much in the last, considering we're seeing Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere rugby being played, we're seeing the top fly halves, the top first fives in both the southern and the northern hemisphere playing at the moment. At least we should do, because we expect the selectors in the northern hemisphere to pick the best ones. How short are we on players who are controlling the game? You would expect some classic first fives like Carter, like Johnny Wilkinson, whatever, in these kind of conditions, to have put the ball where the grass was and let it skid onto and create the kind of issues that you take on. We don't seem to be having people that take the game by the scruff of the neck and control it. Maybe Aaron Cruden was the closest we've seen this weekend, but yeah, I'm just surprised at the lack of control.
That's a good point. Even in terms of the halfbacks, Willie Hines was good in the first half, but in the second half his game really went to pieces. Of course, Ali Price as well for Scotland. You could arguably say they probably missed somebody of Greg Laidlaw's experience. He used to be pretty handy in terms of game management behind that Scotland pick. But that's a good point as well.
Has Laidlaw retired?
Yeah, Laidlaw's retired.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
today he was glad he retired.
Well, yes, exactly.
Thank goodness I retired.
Those players were like, please, can I just finish this post-match interview, please? I'm cold. Just let me get warm, please.
Yeah.
It was cruel to keep them out on the pitch without coats on. Looking at some of the stats here, 51 kicks from hand by England. I've never seen a number that high. 36 by Scotland. So yeah, combined, they kicked it more than once a minute, which even the other weekend in Durban, between the Sharks and the Bulls, they only kicked it something like 74 times in those conditions. So yeah, this was an extreme game. 21 turnovers by Scotland in this game, which is just under any conditions.
Yeah, you can't expect to win.
You can't expect to
win. I mean, unless the conditions are so bad, it's gale force, that you're seeing something like 15 or 16 or 17 turnovers from the opposition team. So in other words, the conditions are just wild, right? But no, that's just way too high, and so many of those were bad decisions. Like bad decisions where to throw the ball in the line out.
Yep.
I got to say, England kicked so much today that I actually forgot who was playing in the midfield until Owen Farrell actually had a shot at goal near the end of the game. And that's who's playing number 12 today.
Yes. Well,
and that was one of the things I did want to discuss, because when we were quick chat in the first half, you were like saying, okay, does Farrell play 12 for his club? And I'm like, no, he plays 10 for his club. And you said
he looks like him.
He looks like he's playing as a 10 in the 12 channel.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he doesn't take it up.
Well, there was an instance where there was a poor kick, and he fielded the ball, and there wasn't a set line in front of him, and he took the ball. It was a shallow kick. It wasn't very high. He wasn't under pressure, and he had space to come to the line and either take the line on or to offload closer to the line, right? And then he caught the ball, and he instantly just shoveled it to a forward on his left, or the player outside, right? And then that player then took it up, and that player took it, and he came to him again, and he just shoveled it on, right? Now a good 12, and it's kind of scattered. They didn't have time to set. There wasn't strong defense. There wasn't strong chase. You would expect a 12 to take the ball to contact, right? And either try and punch and bend the thing or whatever. But all he did was playing this shovel like a 10. No, I must be back in playmaking position. No, you're not. The 10 is supposed to be back in playmaking position. Your job is to provide some go forward and some punch. So yeah, I'm not a big believer in this 10-12 axis that England have resorted to.
In the classic roll fight, yeah, but and when the ruck is at either side of the pitch, it doesn't kind of work. It's when the ruck's in the middle of the pitch and you can have a playmaker either side, then it can kind of work, because the 15 is definitely not a playmaker. My problem also with my problem with the balance of this back row is that you've got not back row, the backs is you've got Ford, Farrell, JJ. You've got Daly and May, who are both light, fast wingers. You've got a light, fast back in Furbank. JJ is, again, he's not a big, powerful ball carrier. Not too long. There's no weight in that back line at all. There needs some. I'm not a big fan of Delende. but that as a 12, because he just never passes it. There's some balance needed, but but you do
That's
need,
where the ball goes to die.
exactly, yeah.
It's dial-ended.
And the way that the way that the All Blacks got around is sometimes with players like Julian Surveyor, who can then come in and provide that extra weight and size and pace. So it can be on the wings. It doesn't have to be in the centres. But I think one of those guys has got to have some.
Well, the All Blacks will always have. You'll see the All Blacks will always have one player who can do that. So in the midfield, so they'll have Sonny Bill Williams, or they'll have Jack Goodhue, or they'll have somebody that can do that. And even when you shift some of the other tens that have moved to 12 at various times, Dan Carter started there. Dan Carter, as a 10, would take the ball to the line and look and see if you're running off him and then take off. Or if, at times where South Africa has moved Pollard to 12 at a certain time, right? Pollard takes the line on even at 10. He's prepared to run at the line, right? So what concerns me is I don't see even the times that Farrell has played at 10. I haven't seen him take the ball to the line and prepare to take you need somebody to commit the defense. If I was playing against England, I would have no worries of Farrell coming through me.
Yeah. Because he just doesn't do that very often. Yeah.
He just doesn't. I would have no worries. I'd leave him a little bit of space because I don't expect him to run at contact.
So yes, interesting one there. So I wanted a quick chat that one with. Any other points, Stephen, on that one, or do you want to?
No, not really. I'm really surprised we've actually managed to take the show out to about half an hour.
Oh gosh! Can I just say, Stephen? Can I just say, is there anything that you can say about this game that will give any credence to his defense of playing rugby in winter in the Northern Hemisphere? Right? Because but for the first season and the logistics of moving it, I cannot see any of the next 100 years reason to continue to play this game in that kind of weather in the Northern Hemisphere when you are competing at the same time. It's the height of the football season.
Okay, but look, this was an extremely bad weather game. Okay, this isn't the norm. All right, this is not the norm. It was a extremely bad weather game. So it has. Yeah, if it was the norm, I'd agree with that. But it's not. This is a one-off. There we go. Anyway, clearly, as Stephen says, we've exhausted all the topics on this game itself. Do hit subscribe. Do hit the bell as well. Dark Play says, on the plus side, the Blues actually won a game. They did.
Hey, Stephen. Stephen. No wonder you woke up happy this morning. Look at him. The sunshine is shining on you, mate.
So,
do your hula.
hula. Jeez.
Away.
That's from the Kenyan Seven speaking Hamilton.
And how good was your wing, Stephen? How good was that left wing?
Talia.
Very good. It was fantastic to see. I'll tell you what, though, it wasn't a vintage performance. Hard to know because the opposition were pretty poor.
And the weather was poor.
A loose team a year ago or a couple of years ago would have found a way to lose that game.
Yep. And do join us at 8 p.m. on Monday when Stephen and I will go through all the games from the Super Rugby round. So yes, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the bell down below to get notifications and don't miss any of the shows like that. And do visit DrivingMaul.com. I've got one game wrong this weekend so far in my predictions. Otherwise, it's been perfect. So go over there for predictions, and don't forget, Major League Rugby is also kicking off as well.
Last point. I just want to point out to all the viewers, I woke up early.
You still missed the first half.
To watch the Six Nations. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning to watch the Six Nations.
I was up at 3:05. You see, he missed
4 o'clock. Whatever. I missed the first half of the first game, but I mean,
So Thank you, everybody,
You
who
must
joined us
be
in the
a
live
mate.
chat.
You really must
Don't-
be there. We get up like, oh my
We'll be,
gosh.
yes, regularly on here with post-match reactions for the rest of Super Rugby seasons and Six Nations. So do hit that subscribe and follow. Thank you, Stephen. We'll be talking Monday evening when we go through all of that Super Rugby action.
Cheers, mate.